Do you think Donald Trump is a racist?
I think that Donald Trump, I don't know what's in his mind and what's in his heart. What I can say is that his rhetoric has oftentimes tapped into themes that have been used in this country for years in order to block the full participation of African Americans in our country's lives. He is more than happy to fan racist sentiments, and that from a leader, much from anyone who has a public platform, much less the President of the United States, is a problem. This is the kind of rhetoric that, whether he believes it or not, or he just thinks it's expedient to get him more attention and more power, unleashes some dark forces, and now is turbocharged in the internet, and we've seen an increase in those kinds of attitudes that have rendered them more acceptable. I am happy that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to come in, I think, and set a different tone. But what is absolutely clear is that we have seen what used to be, or had been relegated to the fringes of Republican Party rhetoric, now moved front and center. This fear of the other, this suggestion that somehow there's real Americans and then there are people who I guess are fake Americans. And somehow the fake Americans tend to look like me.
And can you unleash that if you're him? Can you unleash that without being a racist? I mean, I just wonder whether it matters whether he's identified, whether he's defined as a racist or whether he's just involved in what people have said are racist acts.
I guess that's my point, Matt. It doesn't really matter, right? I'm not interested in his motivations. I'm not interested in what's in his heart. I'm interested in what he does. I remark in the book the fact that in my first 2 years in office, he was actually quite complimentary of me, right? At a time when he perhaps thought that was expedient. Then he decides, well, maybe taking this approach of being a right-wing populist and xenophobe is to my advantage. And the impulses that he taps into, those existed well before he decided to run for president. As I described, you have a prototype in Sarah Palin. You see it surfacing during the Tea Party. He was not an originator of this. But as I said, whether he's cynically riding that wave to achieve his ends or whether it taps into something he actually believes, here's what I can say for certain, that he does not consider it his job to fight against racist sentiments. He does not consider it to be one of the goals of any leader, American or Canadian or otherwise, to try to tamp down those kinds of darker impulses. And that, to me, is a failure. Any leader who is complicit, whether by commission or omission, in the kind of thought processes and actions that lead to racist behavior, discrimination, or worse, then they're not doing their job.
And I wonder, as you watch the current president of the United States refuse to concede, how do you understand the fact that more than 71 million Americans voted for another 4 years of Donald Trump?
Well, look, this is a divided country, and it's not unique to America. I think we've seen this kind of right-wing populism resurgent in Europe. You see nationalist or tribal impulses assert themselves in a lot of countries. There are a lot of factors that contribute to that. Part of it is responses to globalization, responses to technology. I've talked a lot about the degree to which the splintering of the media has created, I think, a ecosystem of conservative media that is very hard to penetrate. And so if you are consuming that news, if that's your source of what's happening in the outside world, then you would think that Donald Trump has not only done great work as president, but you would think that he's justified in taking the positions he's taking. So there are a lot of factors involved. It's important, I think, to remember that 80 million people rejected an incumbent president, and that's not something that typically happens. It's only happened a handful of times in modern times in the United States. And so how we bridge that gap between those who I think strongly opposed this president and those who still support him is going to be a big challenge for my good friend Joe Biden and Kamala Harris when they come into office.
How important is it, do you think, for Democrats to try to understand why people voted for Donald Trump?
I always think it's important because it's hard to get big stuff done if the country is this polarized. And there are features of the American system that are different than a typical parliamentary system. You can't just move your platform forward if you've got the majority. There are all kinds of ways in which a determined opposition can block everything, not just some things. So I think Joe's going to have to try to arrive at areas of potential compromise. But I think the issues that are taking place now, and I write about these in the book, go deeper than just one election or electoral politics. You've seen growing divisions, some of which are deeply rooted in questions of race and gender and date back to the founding of this country, some of which are a result of a changing economy in which, for example, metropolitan areas have seen very different rates of growth than rural areas, and that has created frustrations and resentments that can be harnessed and channeled by populist or faux populists like Donald Trump.